So, I got into the Hazbin Hotel recently, and honestly, I enjoyed it. Like, way more than I expected. My brain said, okay, one episode only. And then suddenly it was 3 a.m. Classic. Today I want to break down everything, the things I loved, the things that frustrated me, the things I hope future seasons explore, with honesty, nuance, and a lot of love. Because this show might be chaotic, messy, and structurally flawed, but it's also fun, ambitious, and emotionally sincere in a way that surprised me. We'll start spoiler-free, then I'll dive into full Season 1 and 2 spoilers, character arcs, themes, music, and Season 3 theories. Okay? Okay. Spoiler-free review. Hazbin Hotel is fun. It's chaotic, it's unapologetically queer, loosely inspired by religious references. The animation goes crazy, the cast is stacked with Broadway legends, and the music unnecessarily hard-hitting. They didn't have to snap that hard, and yet they did. The show juggles comedy, action, musical numbers, and surprisingly emotional moments in a way that makes it extremely bingeable. Even when Hazbin stumbles, and it does stumble, it's still entertaining in that I need one more episode kind of way. However, as all shows are, Hazbin is also flawed. Not in a this is bad, this is trash kind of way, but more like you are a very ambitious show. My biggest issue is runtime. 22-minute episodes, 8 episodes per season, 20 plus characters, biblical references, existential themes, and musical numbers. There is simply not enough time for all the ideas the team wants to explore. Season 1 especially feels like a test season. Fast, dense, chaotic, ending on a cliffhanger, but watching both seasons back to back made me realize that seasons 1 and 2 feel like one complete season split in half. Season 1 sets up the world, the tone, the characters, and season 2 finally shows the hotel functioning as a redemption space. Still imperfect, but taken more seriously. Hazbin desperately needs longer episodes, more episodes, filler or vignette episodes for characters, and I think to sum it all up, it's just time to breathe. But even with these limitations, it still manages to deliver moments that do hit. And listen, after watching everything, am I still gonna watch season 3? Of course, I mean, it's not gonna be released very soon, but I'm going to be there when it releases. My nitpicks aren't really deal breakers, they're just the inevitable side effects of a show sprinting through a marathon. Okay, spoilers start now. You have been warned. Season 1 was too short for a world this wild and full of potential. Here is the vibe, here is the music, here is the tone. Do you like it? And yeah, I did. The songs hooked me immediately. I love musicals, Broadway, and real vocalists. So when Charlie opened her mouth with that Disney princess sound, I knew I was locked in. The songwriting is clever as hell, packing lore and character exposition into under 2 minutes while also still sounding good. From the very first episode, I also sensed the found family energy. But one thing I still want is a proper episode showing how Charlie recruited her staff. The hotel dynamic still doesn't really feel fully solid even after season 2, especially now that Angel left. I kind of expected for the show to have something like the early arcs of One Piece, Avatar, The Last Airbender, Vox Machina, or The Mighty Nine, which I will make a commentary on next after this, when it's finished and all released. I was expecting that they were gonna give each character a spotlight episode, let them bond, let the group take shape slowly, but I get that it didn't align with the story they wanted to tell in a short period of time. Also, Chaggy being a leading gay couple or queer couple in an animated show that isn't tragic is huge for me. Please tell me that I did not just jinx this. Hopefully nothing bad happens to my favorite couple, you know. Almost every flaw could be fixed with more time, more budget, more room to breathe. The final battle was too short for the stakes it tried to build. But to be fair, Adam and the Exorcist do exterminations like it's brunch, like it's for fun. So maybe that justified it? And yes, ALASTOR felt like the real main character of this show. I love Charlie, but she definitely felt like a side character for some reason. Like, I don't know why, I kind of felt like ALASTOR's very good scene stealer. When season 1 ended with Pentious being redeemed, it was clear that the show had a long game. Multiple arcs, multiple seasons, slow lore drops. Which is good. This world has endless potential. I want to go over the songs from season 1 because I actually love the songs from season 1. So Happy Day in Hell sets the vibe of the show and what it is about. Hell is forever. Extermination is entertainment for the exorcists. Adam and Lute are loyal to heaven, but their hatred of sinners in hell are even more fueled because of the exterminations, right? Makes me question heaven and recall that Lucifer thinks heaven is too full of rules. Stayed Gone sets the tone for ALASTOR and Vox's rivalry. And then Carmilla's songs, very underrated. Whatever It Takes and Out for Love, they are both bops. Very underrated, but this is probably because of how little time we actually get to spend time with her or like be attached to her. But they're very good. Hell's Greatest Stat is like a Friend Like Me homage for me, like especially for Lucifer's part in the beginning. It kind of felt like a tribute or a nod to Robin Williams' take on Friend Like Me. Poison is pop perfection, very marketable. I see the potential for this song. I actually don't know if this became super famous back when this was released. Loser Baby is HUSK supremacy. I think Loser Baby is definitely kind of like the core song of this show emotionally. I don't know. But it really competes with More Than Anything, which is another emotional core of a song because it's about Charlie and Lucifer. I love the arrangement of that song, and especially that Jeremy Jordan and Erica Henningsen both had very angelic voices that complemented each other. So that was great. And then Ready for This, it was cute. I didn't really enjoy it that much, but it was cute for the story. And then the finale song for The Show Must Go On. It's a Happy Day in Hell callback. Charlie realizes her family has her back and they can build the place with better parts. So I love this one because it ties everything up together in a messy bow. And ALASTOR's part really highlights how he doesn't like relying on others. He likes that others can rely on him, and may or may not be because he can ask them for favors later. So yeah, Hazbin hides a lot of things in plain sight. Tiny background details, lyrical clues, facial expressions, which makes the theorizing really fun. So if I had to describe the tone of this show, it is R16, but also kind of Disney-ish, like an adult Disney musical that fell into hell. And that's for season 1. Let's go on to season 2. Season 2, I believe, is so much better than season 1 because this season felt more confident for me. You can feel that the writers finally lean into the themes of identity, propaganda, persuasion, manipulation, authority, fear of failure, wanting to be better but not knowing how, wanting to prove yourself. These themes show up through Charlie, Vox, Angel Dust, VAGGI, ABEL, and especially SERA, who is so underrated, by the way. Let me get into that later. First, I want to talk about Vox versus Charlie, two sides of the same coin, because both of them have a few similarities. Both of them act reactively, get rage baited easily, fear being failures, sideline their friends because they were blinded by their hyperfixations, respectively ALASTOR and Vox. And then they also struggle with proof or credibility, and both were eager to clear their name and prove who they are and aren't. Vox actually prepares his propaganda and knows how to weaponize narrative, while Charlie has a raw heart but no solid evidence and acts in panic. Vox's real enemy here is really just ALASTOR because there aren't many other characters that show high intellect. This is not a shade to Charlie or anything, but like Compared to ALASTOR, there's no other character out there who's very good at manipulating people's minds, you know, other than him. So I think it's more of like the story's setting, and that's how it was molded. So now we have this conclusion from me. Their authority clashes, yes, but the real tragedy was that they're both spiraling for the same reason. I genuinely thought that Val would off Vox at the end, but nope. Apparently the Overlord Lifeline has rules that I wasn't really clear on. So I wasn't clear on the system behind how do they unalive in this show. And then Vel and Val taking Vox in was kind of wild for me. It showed that they have a found family dynamic more than the hotel family, to be honest. Meanwhile, VAGGI tries to be Charlie's backbone twice, and Charlie finally listens in the finale. Their reconciliation in Easy was adorable, and Charlie admitting that VAGGI basically runs the hotel was a nice end to this season for their relationship arc. But I do wonder if next season VAGGI might be put in a difficult position because of LUTE, because their dynamic hasn't really changed. I wonder if their relationship will be rocky. Moving on, I want to go over to the backstories. We have 3 backstories here from PENTIOUS, Vox, and ALASTOR. These 3 getting focused Sin or backstory episodes feel intentional for me, because PENTIOUS is redeemed, the Sin was in action, and then Vox, who is likely to be a candidate in the future, in like far future, whose sin is envy, and then ALASTOR is absolutely not trying to be redeemed, and whose sin is pride. But we never know with this show. Even though he steals every scene and we already kind of know him, we still don't know his true motive. So season 3 better give us something new. The character that I want to talk about next is Angel Dust. Angel's arc in season 2 is brutal and heartbreaking because his identity is fractured. He doesn't really fully know who he is outside of Val's control and outside of Vox's mind control. So it was really heartbreaking. And every time he tries to claw his way out, he is met with the reality that he is still chained to his abuser, unfortunately. While Vox and Charlie were asserting their authority in different ways, Angel was trying to reclaim his, only to lose the will to keep fighting by season 2's end. His story being about abuse and coercion is handled sensitively, and honestly I hope season 3 gives him meaningful healing and not just plot convenience. So that's what I'm hoping for with Angel Dust. I want him to be happy. And another character that I want to talk about briefly is SERA, the unexpected great character in this show. SERA's crisis of identity is so compelling. She used her authority to exterminate sinners. Now she questions if any of it was truly righteous. She seeks God's speaker for answers because she is confused, lost, and looking for answers. And even thinking of, does she even deserve the title that she was given? And it's a redeemed sinner who helps her find the answer that she seeks. It's poetic, and I want more of her. And then the characters, HUSK, NIFTY, CHERRI, and LUCIFER. The HUSK-CHERRI team up is very fun to see. I did not see it coming, and I love it. And NIFTY getting a whole song, yes, please, I love it. Another detail that I love is HUSK and NIFTY losing to the V's early on and then beating them later but switched up. So that's a beautiful touch that I love. For the songs though, Lucifer's solo parts in songs were show-stopping. I do want more. I wanted his solo parts to be extended, so if we can get full versions of that, that would be really great. Season 3 clearly wants the Morning Stars and Angel Dust front and center. LILITH returning is huge. I genuinely cannot predict the villain of Season 3. Maybe ALASTOR, LILITH, LUTE, someone else entirely, all of them, I don't know. But if the runtime and the time frame for Season 3 is still the same as Seasons 1 and 2, I kind of doubt that they would, or that they can pack all of those in Season 3. So I'm hoping they're not cramping things up again for the next season. For the music, again, please give us full songs. The songs are so good but so short. Some numbers become info dense because they're trying to fit the lore into a tiny runtime. That's why songs like Gravity, Sarah's Confession, Live to Live, Losing Streak, Hiss, A Love Song, and even Love in a Bottle they feel more emotional, more singular and sing-along friendly, and just less cramped. Hazbin plays with genre so much, I wouldn't really be shocked if season 3 introduces a rapper or more hip-hop inspired tracks. Maybe a la Hamilton, because of the musical theater Broadway type of stuff they're doing with the music. I wouldn't be surprised. Another detail that I love about this show is watching Hazbin weekly rather than binging them. Like, yes, I did binge them because I wasn't aware of the show until just recently. It's something I realized is just if I find myself justifying scenes from a creator's POV instead of as a viewer, the execution is shaky. But there are also some takes from the viewers that are really too much that don't really add to the story, like perhaps filling in gaps that are actually pretty easy to infer and don't need more scenes to justify or make a point. With that said, it has been crammed a lot into short episodes. So the weekly release format actually benefits the show because viewers can process, fans can theorize, the engagement with the content is longer. I didn't get to experience the weekly discourse, which was probably better for me, so my viewing experience was not swayed with others or by others. But still, like, I would kind of want to experience that for the next season of Hazbin Hotel. Now I want to get into the theme. Before we get into the characters, I want to get into one of its themes first. If Hazbin has a beating heart, it is redemption. It is not as prominent in season 2, but it's still there. Not just as a word, but as a question. What is redemption? Who actually deserves it? And what does it look like to genuinely change? And so far, the show nails the broad core idea, but it hasn't really fully cracked open the messy, morally complicated parts yet. But then it gives us these small, devastating moments that tell you exactly what the writers are aiming for. Like with, it starts with sorry. That line, honestly, it's the thesis statement of the whole show, or maybe that's a stretch, that's overestimating it. But it's delicate, soft, painfully sincere, and pure Charlie energy distilled into one sentence. It starts with being humble, especially when you're in the prideful ring. It feels like a callback we're going to hear again in future seasons. And then there's live to live. But listen to Sarah's confession first, trust me. So live to live expands the idea further. It starts with sorry, though it cannot just end there. Mistakes are innate to being human and alive. We fall, we repent, we survive. And these two songs summarize Hazbin's entire philosophy so far. Redemption begins with remorse, but remorse isn't the finish line. Accountability matters, choosing to live differently matters, surviving long enough to heal matters. And that's why I'm patient with this show. Even when the execution is messy, it knows exactly what it wants to say. Then you have Sarah's line, there's hope for us all as we strive to live to earn my own redemption. Redemption in this series isn't just about cleaning up hell's population. It's about making things right, being accountable, doing better, wanting to be better, whether for yourself or for someone else. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if the final seasons land on redemption doesn't have a manual, everyone's path looks different, since they're playing safe so far. And the question I want to see for the show to finally confront is, do I even deserve redemption? Especially for irredeemable villains like Val, Vox, and Velvet. The immediate answer is no, of course, but is it really about who deserves it? When Vox asked, "Do you think I could be redeemed?" and Charlie answered, "I believe anyone can be redeemed." Then the camera lingered on him for a bit, and you can tell that the show wants to go deeper but chooses not to, at least for now. We just haven't seen the messy version of that scenario yet, and that version where it's uncomfortable, complicated, or even ugly. What is not yet added to the equation here is God's grace. Hazbin's redemption theme so far is self-driven, and I wonder if they'll lean into the grace-driven redemption from the scriptures itself. It will ruffle some feathers for sure, but grace-driven doesn't mean it takes away the betterment of oneself, for themselves, and for others, and wanting to be better. I want to see that so badly in future seasons, since what we got is, for lack of a better word, safest portrayal of redemption through Sir Pentious. I highly doubt that they go down this messy path in future seasons, but it will be really great to see how the show will handle this heavier and nuanced topic, because that's where Hazbin's theme of redemption is going to hit its peak. Okay, now the characters. Let's go. Charlie. Let's start with the main character of this show, the starring character. I love Charlie in season 1. Season 2, just the same. She is the rainbow sunshine extrovert, the textbook definition of being good, really funny, and the girl who genuinely wants to help everyone. She gets less screen time in season 2 that it honestly feels like the show is delaying her arc for later seasons, since much of her is tied to Lilith than to Lucifer. It is hilarious though how she gets rage baited so easily. It is one of the traits she shares with Vox, which is hilarious because he is the main villain this season. She is powerful, but she clearly needs combat training, which honestly just makes sense for her personality and upbringing. Charlie is also a sheltered Nepo baby, the only child of Lucifer and Lilith, running a hotel that's basically a purgatory space. She's not actually the best person to teach redemption or guide sinners to it, but she has the heart and the resilience to do so. With that said, she needs guidance from someone with more lived experience, someone that she can learn from. But maybe that's exactly the point. She is naive and overly trusting, so she can learn through betrayal, failure, and consequences. She needs to understand what being good actually looks like in practice and not just in theory or in the books. I have a feeling that in season 3 that this is where she will finally understand what made Lilith disappear for years and what it actually means to be head counselor of the hotel, because my god, is the hotel understaffed, especially now that the hotel is packed. She does have questionable choices of staff too. Think about it. She hired Husk, who's dealing with alcohol addiction, as a bartender. Nifty, who has her own quirks and hyperfixations on rats and rodents, as the housekeeper, and then ALASTOR as the host, who doesn't really do much for the day-to-day hotel stuff, although he does save the hotel family a number of times when you think about it. And then she hires herself as the head counselor. She's inexperienced, not incapable, which is what makes her arc interesting. And then VAGGI seems to be the only one who is fit for the job that was handed over to her by Charlie. She always tries diplomacy first, which fits because of her mother's influence. But when she is under pressure, she makes quick bad decisions out of panic. And it's normal, we make that kind of mistake too. She leads with emotion first and logic later. But in that situation that she was in, I think I would do the same thing that she did. Afraid of her dreams being crushed and called a hypocrite, she freaked out. Another thing about her is her blind, naive, pure optimism, which is good and can be good at times, but also frustrating. Ironically, it's also the reason Hell was saved twice. We do see her ask for help sometimes, talking to Rosie, Lucifer, and VAGGI about hotel and relationship problems. And honestly, that's when she felt the most human for me. Charlie may not have the best reputation, but she has the most impact on saving Hell. For example, Sir Pentious in It Starts With Sorry. In Live to Live, he changed it to It Starts With Charlie because her stubborn kindness changed him. And that's who she is. She doesn't cause big dramatic transformations on stage for everyone to see, and she isn't the best at being a convincing leader of the masses just yet. But she does spark small moments of change that add up. She's not the perfect green flag, green forest protagonist with amazing combat skills that people want her to be. She is flawed, she messes up, she is stubborn, she's a work in progress, and that's really the point. I happen to come across these kind of people who are impatient with character development across every medium out there. I would say like in manga, webtoon, manhwa, anime, animated shows, movies, TVs, films, people are impatient with character development. They want this character to be a green flag instantly after the first episode, which contained this kind of red flag situation. I do not understand it, because why would you even write a story without flaws, without having the character go through obstacles? along the way and learning from that, from the consequences of their decisions, right? So yeah, I wanted to speak about that for a bit. And then we have Charlie's relationships with VAGGI, Lucifer, Angel, Emily, and even ALASTOR show that she is a caring person and she does feel remorse. She made huge mistakes and has hurt people, don't get me wrong, but she was also quick to admit her failures and wants to make things right. The show just portrayed it a bit too simple that it comes across as cheap. I think I want to see this develop more when it comes to her relationship with Angel in season 3, because at some points in the show, he showed that he was softening and beginning to trust Charlie, Husk, etc. And Charlie was always apologizing, but it was beginning to feel like it had less meaning. They've had this sibling energy I kind of wish they would explore more, so I hope their relationship improves. And it was nice that the hotel blocked it that Angel was brainwashed by Vox, and we didn't have to go through a misunderstanding trope. Right now, Charlie kind of feels like an adorable, flawed side character who is yet to be a confident and amazing leader in her own show. Season 2 giving her less screen time didn't help, but I think the payoff is coming in season 3, especially with Lilith back. Just imagine Lilith arrives and is like, Charlie, let me show you how it's really handled. Or maybe, you know what, Lilith might be out there working on another space of purgatory, since I also have a hard time wrapping my head around how the hotel would actually redeem them to heaven when new sinners are arriving in hell daily. The hotel is kind of acting as a purgatory space, but I wonder if her mom would actually approve. Since God created everything in 7 days, maybe it took 7 years, almost 8 for Lilith. I don't know, maybe it's a stretch. It's maybe a stretch, okay? It's a hear me out moment. I do wonder if by the end of this entire show, Charlie will be the only one left at the hotel if the hotel cast gets redeemed. I don't know, just a passing thought. Maybe by that point, redemption is not something that's required to solve their population crisis. So there's that. And now we move on to another person who might be redeemed in the show, in the far future of the show, Vox. Okay, this is the dominant villain of the show, and he was the perfect villain for season 2. Perfect casting, perfect energy, and perfect rival to ALASTOR. Season 2 is basically the Vox show, and honestly, I am not mad. His scenes were consistently good and entertaining. One thing I loved is his parallels with Charlie. Since this season's theme is identity, apparently, he has a lot of parallels with Charlie and has been guaranteed. They have that back and forth that shows how similar they are beneath the competition. And then Vox Populi, the contrast becomes even clearer. Vox wants to save souls to take over heaven, plan some schemes, and secure power in hell. Charlie wants to save souls through actual redemption, even though she still has no idea how. Vox has 100% approval ratings and has a really high understanding of persuasion, manipulation, and of reading people in hell. And Charlie is princess of hell and still doesn't have the same influence or authority and has a bit of difficulty empathizing with complex people in general. I would say that she has high sympathy and she is compassionate, but low empathy considering she has a royal sheltered background. I hope I covered that sensitively and accurately. I do love how the show frames both their differences and their similarities, especially how reactive they both are, how terrified they are of failure, they dream big but for totally different reasons. Vox wants self-gain and the other wants none of that. Charlie just wanted to be like her mom and for her mom to be proud of her. And the things she does are for saving her people. And back to Vox, Vox played by Christian Borle, he definitely ate this role up. They gave him so many songs this season, so many sides of Vox that we discovered, in Vox Populi, Vox Day, Bad With Us, Brighter, Once We Get Up There. Don't you forget Reprise, Has Been Guaranteed, Trust Us. When I think about the future, I would say excellent songs, considering how short the songs are and how much info are dumped in those songs. They're so good and they sounded so good as well. Vox's backstory though, I'll be honest, I was a bit disappointed because I expected him to be a manipulator who uses persuasion, influence, and chess master thinking, not someone who decimates people himself, behind the scenes. I thought he'd be the pull the strings from behind the scenes and let others do his evil biddings type of character. But I get the sense that the writers wanted a backstory that parallels ALASTOR's in some way. The difference being that Vox cheated his way to the top and ALASTOR worked hard and smarter to be this radio star with his own radio show. That bar flashback though, him being shy, awkward, clearly admiring ALASTOR, that rejection hurt. And what gets me is actually him being this trust me guy to a distrustful guy like ALASTOR, literally the worst person to ask that of. So Vox was actually painfully genuine in that moment, maybe for the first and last time in any deal or partnership he's ever wanted. I still am curious of the first meeting, since they were longtime friends by that point. Much of Vox is tied to ALASTOR than with the V's. ALASTOR is the one person he cannot win his approval of. He was always trying to prove to ALASTOR that he deserves to be his equal. He also couldn't comprehend why the radio demon stayed at the hotel but also showed jealousy because a naive, pure-hearted person like Charlie got a good impression on him. Like, why would ALASTOR partner up with Charlie for ridiculous ideas such as redemption for sinners in hell when he is the most powerful sinner and can just off them or take over heaven? Why would he accept a partnership with a weak princess, quote-unquote weak, okay, than with someone who has more ambition and influence over hell? Why Charlie when she also relied on other people to run her hotel? Why not go with Vox? Okay, it's crazy and dangerous what envy can do to a person. It can give you buffed up arms out of nowhere, make you delirious over someone you cannot best and get, and almost annihilate all of hell with tears streaming down your TV head. Other than that, I want to talk about his demon form. I thought he'd go full shark mode like his pet, but he turned into a spider or parasite instead, which actually makes sense for him. He leeches off of people, gains power through approval ratings, and that was how I interpreted that power scale and power system. I don't know if that's actually facts, but that's how I interpreted it. And thrives on public perception. It fits him in a creepy, symbolic way. The shark elements, though, are apparent when he uses electricity. And for season 3, I want them to give him less screen time. Very, very much less screen time. Not because he's not fun to watch, but because seasons 1 and 2 already gave him a full arc so far. He is irredeemable to me. I don't think he serves the story for the next season. I don't think that's something. I don't think he can give something to what they're going to go for in season 3, is what I'm theorizing. But the show might explore the idea of whether heaven would accept or reject someone like him if he genuinely wanted redemption in the far future of the show. It is just a theory. For now though, I think that he should be parked on the sidelines. Maybe we'll get an origin story on how he formed the V's, or maybe his season 3 arc, if he does get one, will be very small. Something about mending or deepening his relationship with Velvette and Valentino, or actually earning their trust back. I don't know. But I think if that's the case, it could parallel ALASTOR's own potential arc in season 3, where we might finally see him soften because of his found family at the hotel. Speaking of the radio demon, ALASTOR is ALASTOR. He is honestly my main character. He is the main character of this show so far. I cannot even lie to you. He is my favorite rage baiter. He's the reason I kept watching. He consistently overshadows Charlie, which is iconic for him, but a little sad for Charlie. What makes him so compelling is the combination of contradictions he carries so effortlessly. He is menacing but hilarious, mysterious but subtly emotional, layered but unreadable. The radio filter, the vintage cadence, the wordplay, the permanent stitched up smile. Everything about him feels intentional, calculated, and impossible to pin down. And the voice acting completes the whole thing and elevates it so much. One of the best parts of the show, if not the best part of the show, for sure. He's a perfect anti-hero because you never know his endgame. Listen, he chains himself on purpose. He acts detached, self-sufficient, uninterested in connection, and yet he chooses to stay at the hotel. For reasons that we can kind of already know why. He is powerful, but he is holding back. He's free, but he keeps creating cages for himself. He's dangerous, but there's something undeniably human buried in there. By the end of season 2, though, the leash is off. He breaks every chain binding him and stands there staring at Lucifer like he's already planning the sequel. Maybe he wants Lucifer's power. Maybe he wants a new deal. Maybe he's just bored now that Vox lost and is looking for his next challenge. Either way, he is absolutely positioning himself for something bigger. And as much as I would love to see a full villain arc of him, which I think would be really fun, what I really want from him, and the thing the show is just starting to hint at, is emotional vulnerability. No, let him crash out, let him crack, let his smile drop, let him actually cry, let the found family dynamic start melting at the edges of him. Of course, with the condition that the found family dynamic actually starts developing, you know? Let Charlie's pure optimism get to him, as so far she is the only one he would actually trust to some extent, since he knows Charlie well enough as a master reader of people, you know. We got a taste of his backstory, but not enough to fully understand him. You know, his motivations are still locked up tight. You know, his idea of fun during that scene in the cabin is morally questionable. His loyalty is unpredictable. Well, his loyalty is probably just to himself, but it's still, you know, to other people, it's unpredictable. And his decision to stay at the hotel makes zero sense on paper, which is exactly why he's so fascinating to me. What if his new rival or form of entertainment is someone or something he cannot outsmart? I wouldn't be surprised at all that it'll be so chaotic that it will paint him as the villain or the traitor of the show. Next up is Lucifer. Lucifer is fascinating because he's the guy with all the power, all the legacy, all the mythos, and yet he is also completely trapped by it. It's a very wise, I wouldn't say wise, but a very fascinating storytelling decision for Lucifer and how they framed him in this show. He's the king of hell, but he cannot even act like one. He can't smite sinners, but to what extent is that? Like, what is the exact punishment for Lucifer? I would really want to know that. And still, he is so lovable. Every scene with him is either funny, soft, or quietly heartbreaking. And there is this interesting contrast in him, you know, very interesting, that he is aware, perceptive even, but also a little out of it. Forgetful, oblivious, maybe because of depression. Because how else do you explain a man who can sense danger, look it dead in the eye, and still walk straight into Vox's trap? Maybe it's confidence, maybe it's exhaustion, maybe it's the knowledge that no one in hell can smite him anyway. But also, he's never really been portrayed as some strategic genius. You know, he's not a master chess player, he's just a silly, tired dad who wants his family safe and whole. I do wonder if the only reason why he couldn't defend his dreams to the elders of heaven is because of his lack of wits. But that is yet to be seen if that's actually the reason why he couldn't. What is this with this dream? Is this just about free will for all of mankind? Freedom from rules? I don't know. But I would like to see Lucifer in season 3 owning the title of a prideful king of hell, because so far we haven't seen him have any other motivation to live aside from being there for Charlie and his wife. I would love to see him be of authority, just like how I want to see Charlie finally owning her title of Princess of Hell. His sin is being prideful, but at the same time, it probably will be the reason why he will become better, if that makes any sense. And she is both his anchor and his Achilles heel. She is the one thing that makes him strong, and the one thing Vox can use to break him in 2 seconds, and that's why Vox baited him so easily. Lucifer is overflowing with emotional potential the show hasn't fully explored yet. He is a dreamer who can't leave hell, emotionally aware but too drained to fight. He is someone who sees his younger self reflected in Charlie's hopefulness. More than anything, the song says it all. He wasn't really against Charlie out of distrust, he just didn't want her to experience what he did, dreaming big only to get crushed in the end or have the same fate he has, you know? I do wonder though if this song will be revisited in season 3 since his wife will be back, you know? But by the end of season 1, Charlie brings that spark back and she makes him believe in dreaming again. And honestly, I want more of them, you know, more chaotic and silly father-daughter moments, you know, like that scene where Charlie was frustrated and he went to Lucifer to ask for help. Like, she asked, you know, what do you do with all this stress? You know, she was very, very much distressed and freaking out and doesn't know what to do. And Lucifer really didn't know how to comfort Charlie. And Charlie even admits, you know, with her mom, you know, she would be there, she would know what to do. But you know, the only thing that Lucifer can give her is just a listening ear, and that's, to be honest, more than enough for that moment. So I really want more scenes because their chemistry is so natural and warm and wholesome. I want more backstory on Lucifer, more songs. Give him the Vox treatment, you know, full solos, real emotional arcs, all that jazz, you know. Hell's Greatest Dad is such a good song. You know, the voice actor for Lucifer is so good at what he does for Lucifer, like really chaotic. He can really, his voice can go really high and then really low. I admire that so much about this character, and of course the voice. And the first part of Vox Populi is too good to be that short. And yes, I absolutely need clarity on whether he and Lilith are still married or if it is really over. I highly doubt it because of the ducks on the TV he was watching when Vox scam called him. I think that moment was foreshadowing what will happen between them in season 3. We do see moments where he also appears while a guy was screaming, should I divorce my wife? So hopefully they could mend their relationship. I don't think they would divorce unless we see something else. Another side of Lilith, you know. Now, Lilith is this big, booming mystery. Charlie worships her, calls her instead of Lucifer, who is one call away, is ready to answer her call, by the way, who can instantly teleport himself to the hotel. You know, Lilith is built up as this massive presence that hangs over the entire show even without appearing much. She's the wild card, she's the emotional missing link, and her relationship with Charlie and Lucifer has layers we haven't seen yet. But I am preparing myself emotionally for the possibility that she's not the person Charlie thinks she is. Whether that is not really her or she has changed into someone she doesn't recognize anymore. When she finally shows up in season 3, I expect layers of deception or at least a morally gray agenda. I want to know her true thoughts on Charlie, the hotel, hell, heaven, redemption, and Lucifer. A romance backstory would also be nice, but I also want to know her motives, you know, what are her goals, what happened in the 7-year absence, because clearly they are not small. I mainly theorize that the Lilith we see is actually Eve in disguise and that maybe her soul is trapped in her red diamond necklace. But why would Eve do this to her? Perhaps because Lilith is easier to eliminate or she made a deal with her. There are red colors in this version of Lilith, which is also not her color scheme at all aside from the horns. I think she might want revenge because of how she was the first one to make a mistake and everyone blames her for ruining God's original plan. I think that she is also in Eden to restore it somehow because the place was supposed to be the original plan until Lucy got involved. So maybe she is creating a plan to bring back Eden? Who knows? It might be a stretch. It was also weird seeing how LUTE doesn't like Lilith, quote-unquote Lilith, and never refers to Charlie as her daughter. I don't understand why she sent the message of "you're off the hook for now." I can only infer that this is about Eve stepping in to stop Charlie but was paused. Another person related to the theories of Lilith and Eve is Rosie. So yes, I do theorize that Rosie might be in cahoots with this version of Lilith, whether that's actually her or that's Eve. I think they made a deal for something, but I don't understand why they would save Charlie for the plan, because LUTE was saying to get rid of Charlie and it kind of contradicts itself. So maybe Rosie is really on the good side. So she might be in the middle of, she might be, how do you call this, a tipping point? Like the person who will make or break whatever the story will be about the Morning Stars and about Adam, Eve, Abel, Cain family. I knew that she had something deep with ALASTOR that is not romantic but substantial. You know, their dynamic is so intriguing. I love her song, Don't You Forget. I'm so curious though as to why she cares so much about Charlie. You know, did Lilith ask her to? Did she or an unknown character make a deal with her? Rosie has too many secrets, especially suspicious that she can make ALASTOR the strongest sinner in hell. How can she do that? Is she the person in question? Is she Lilith? Maybe many things point to her because of how she can lead a crowd. That heart-to-heart moment with Charlie, the talk about her two husbands, the necklace, the overprotectiveness over Charlie and friends, you know, at the end of Hear My Hope. Or maybe she is just a red herring. If so, they're doing it well in my opinion. Maybe the Lilith we see in Heaven or Eden is probably someone who shapeshifted into her, or someone possessed her body. Or maybe that is indeed Lilith, but she is in cahoots with Rosie to make Charlie become who Lilith was, because maybe she is trapped there? I don't know. The whole fruitless crusade backstory with ALASTOR, still, you know, I still need answers for that. Why Charlie? Why now? Why this plan? Why guide her to be someone like Lilith, you know? So many questions. Speaking of headed... Okay, now I want to talk about the most underrated character I believe in this show is SERA. First, SERA's singing voice is insane. She sounds like she walked straight out of Prince of Egypt or some 90s or 2000s animated biblical musical. You know, picking up on that same style, the controlled vibrato, the cathedral-like resonance, and that heavenly yet trembling with doubt tone that feels lifted right out of a classical biblical score. And honestly, that might be why SERA works so well. Her voice has a presence and strong authority. She feels ancient, divine, and emotionally fragile all at once. My confusion though about Heaven or Hazbin in general is this, you know, Sir Pentious is the first redeemed soul in a world with phones, modern TVs, and social media. Like really? It took Heaven this long to redeem someone? I know that what we got is what serves as a crucial part of the story, don't get me wrong. A part of me kind of just wished that Heaven had some kind of at least half-baked, bureaucratic, peaceful redemption protocol, not fully understood, not fully functional, but something that shows, you know, they've at least tried, you know? But the truth the show goes for is actually more interesting. Heaven doesn't understand redemption any more than hell does. And that is really humbling. In Hazbin, Heaven isn't portrayed as omniscient or morally flawless. It is human, uncertain, conflicted, and just as lost as the people they judge, but also feels superior to hell. Of course they would be like that. SERA allowed the exterminations not because she is cruel, but because she believes overpopulation in hell could threaten Heaven's own few numbers. Out of duty, basically. You know, she sees a potential uprising. She panicked. She made a choice from a firstborn eldest daughter perspective, which is shown in this underrated song, SERA's Confession. That song blew me away. You can feel her conflict in every note. What is the wise choice next? What am I missing? Why am I suddenly unsure? She asked the speaker of God, who by the way is a magnificent being and perfectly cast. I love her voice. For answers, like a child begging for a checklist, you know, and the speaker pretty much goes, stop listening outward, listen inward. And also her verse, and when I think about the future, also expresses her worries with such a strong but humble presence at the last part of the song, with the choir too. Very, very much underrated. which leads perfectly into Live to Live. The music, the staging, her voice blending with Pentious, somehow that works, it's so divine. And then also, arguably probably the best storytelling choice that they've made this season is that the only person who actually listens to SERA is a redeemed sinner from hell. Their conversation before the song is gold. SERA tries to intimidate Pentious with this fully angelic form that she has. She asks, do you even grasp who I truly am? And Pentious, in the most Pentious way possible, replies, someone who could maybe use a friend to talk to? And that line alone proves everything we need to know about him. And then we get to my favorite exchange. SERA says, how can you even explain humans having enough innate goodness to be redeemed while they take part in actions as vile as this? And Pentious just replies, they are scared. Which parallels her at that moment because she is operating out of fear too. This moment is important because it shows again that even heaven in all its divine authority does not understand redemption. Not fully, not emotionally, not philosophically. SERA is finally cracking under the weight of her own decisions. All the people she's slain who might have been saved. She is one of the richest character additions Hazbin has given to us, and it's nice to see that even after finding an answer to her dilemma, she's now acting out of faith and trust, and it's really good. I'm so happy about this arc that she had in season 2. And also another thing about her is she worried the most about her sister, who is very different from her, by the way. Much of SERA is linked to her sister Emily. Emily is Heaven's Charlie. It also kind of made me think, is this the same VA for Charlie? Because they do have the same voice or brightness of their voices. And yeah, Emily, I love her. Underrated for helping save everyone. She's bubbly, earnest, trying her best. But when they suggested gift baskets as apology gifts for hell, I braced myself for the humiliation. This is peak out of touch rich girl energy. It also highlights that heaven, for all its beauty, is functionally a room full of privileged, sheltered people who mistake being nice for accountability. And a seraphim doesn't have that much of a brain. The winds kind of went out of the window here. I honestly understand how it works thematically with their decision of making heaven this way. Just as hell has sinners with innate goodness, heaven has winners with innate selfishness. But a part of me hoped that at least one person would stand up and say, no, this is stupid, this is wrong. Then again, if they were emotionally competent, then the story would end in like 5 episodes. I am very curious though whether the show will introduce another fallen angel, because heaven has cracks, big ones. Heaven is not what it's all dreamed up to be, aside from the luxuries of being there, I guess. Adam, another angel. I was kind of expecting him to appear as a fallen angel in hell, but that didn't happen. We also haven't seen his second wife, Eve, and his other son, Cain. Adam is the rock angel, the misogynist. I didn't really care about him much narratively, but good lord, his voice actor had the time of his life behind that mic. His songs slap harder than they should. He is so fun to hate, which is honestly the perfect lane for him. I'm so sorry for the Adam fans if there are any out there who is listening. But as a character, he's very fun to hate, Interestingly, he follows the rules of heaven strictly, loyal, but also uses it in order to have his fun in hell. His assistant, LUTE, is interesting as well because she has serious villain potential. I'm calling it now. End of season 3, she snaps. Season 4, full villain mode. I think because of her connection to Lilith, they might be both villains or not, or Lilith might be turning against her, like how ALASTOR outmaneuvered his deal with Rosie. With her character, her whole motivation right now is Adam died, so I am enraged, which feels shallow, especially because Adam is Adam. We do know that she is loyal to heaven as well, but why did she like him? Why did she think he was worth following: just love, trauma bond, validation. You know, hear me out. In Gravity, she does imply that he completes her, but I'm not convinced because she seems like a strong, independent girly. You know, I really hope the writers give her depth, because if there's more to LUTE in season 2 that I missed, it really went over my head. I don't know. I really hope the writers give her depth. She deserves better than Adam. She deserves her own arc, her own beliefs, her own breakaway moment. We love a good villain, of course, but I do hope that she doesn't end up on the wrong side. What she brings with Gravity isn't just an amazing song with stellar vocals, you know, but also maybe a foreshadowing of a literal bloodbath in hell and her becoming a fallen angel. Also possibly offing VAGGI, which I do not want to happen, thank you very much. And now let's talk about the new head of the Exorcist army, who is Abel. Abel is the meek successor to Adam, which is fascinating because Patrick Stump, Fallout Boy, voicing him is an inspired choice. You know, his part and Hear My Hope is easily the highlight of the song. You know, the song is moving, but his part was really like, whoa, I love this part, you know. I want to see how he leads compared to Adam. You know, will he imitate him? Trapped in his father's shadow, will he evolve into something gentler, wiser, and more layered? His presence opens the door for Cain and Eve, and I need those dynamics explored because, you know, especially in season 3, it might become a parallel to Charlie's family in hell. You know, I don't know, maybe I'm reaching, you know, I'm reaching here. I don't know. But moving on to a former angel, you know, VAGGI. VAGGI is a character that I want to love more. I like her, but the show doesn't really give her enough room without tying everything back to Charlie. And that kind of sucks because Charlie herself isn't a well-rounded character just yet. At least not in seasons 1 and 2. So VAGGI ends up stuck orbiting someone who isn't really fully formed yet. We get crumbs, you know, hints of her past as an angel, how she met Charlie, flashes of who she might have been before becoming the girlfriend, and her verses in Whatever It Takes, underrated song. But I want to know her without the lens of being Charlie's supportive partner 24/7. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I want to know her, just her, you know? I love when she tries to ground Charlie and pull her back to reality because Charlie can be so stubborn. But if their dynamic doesn't really evolve from just being somebody who checks on Charlie all the time, the relationship is gonna get rocky, don't you think? And honestly, I still want to know how they fell in love. I love a good meet cute and I love a good evolution of a relationship. So I want them to show the foundation, show us why she believes in Charlie's impossible dream that is now possible. We do know why, but you get me, you know? That would make her support hit harder because she clearly has more going on. She could have been easily part of Carmilla's faction if there is kind of a job like that, but she isn't, you know? And interestingly, she shown more when she is with Carmilla. Almost gives adoptive daughter vibes. The last angel, well, actually one of the last 2 angels that I want to talk about is Angel Dust, you know? Angel Dust is the character that I root for. I think everybody does, you know. Every show has that one character you desperately want to see win, and for Hazbin, that is Angel for me. He is so layered and I want him to be in a better place in season 3 and beyond. His dynamic with HUSK is so important as well and makes the show less intense. It mellows it out. I don't know about you. And full disclosure, I do fully ship them. Their relationship is the #1 slow burn of the show, and it is slow burning so good. I'm not going to be surprised if they are not going to be canon in the show by the end of season 3, considering what Angel's arc is, you know, currently. But part of me also wonders though, did the show spend too much time on their budding relationship, stealing screen time from Charlie and the actual main plot? I don't know, just a thought. Don't come at me for this, but it's just something that, a passing thought, you know? Still, Angel's story deserves all the care. He is a victim of abusive circumstances, stripped of autonomy, identity, and choice. I want him to gain authority over his body, heart, mind, and soul again. And I still don't understand the full details of his contract with Val. The show keeps teasing but never really defining it. Is it broken? Does it have loopholes? Is he imprisoned just physically or just mentally or both? If the contract is actually broken or it has loopholes that he can actually get out of immediately, what happens when we learn that, all this time he was imprisoned mentally? I don't know how to react to that kind of scenario if that does come true. And then we had the hypnosis reveal. I wasn't surprised that he was a spy, but the execution was impactful and heartbreaking. Vox picking Angel Dust from the very beginning at this meeting with the V's, if you recall. Angel Dust was the first that he chose. And then we had that hypnotizing eye glare at the hotel. Like for a split second, Vox did that to Angel Dust, and it made the reveal feel a bit earned. I wouldn't say really fully earned, but a bit earned and not random. So there's that. Angel's whole arc also includes invisible shackles. This show loves that metaphor. Characters who think they can't leave, who think they don't deserve better, and Angel deserves that happiness, that freedom, that found family he keeps almost reaching for. And I want my baby girl to win. Also, can we talk about Poison and Losing Streak? Amazing songs, but Losing Streak takes the cake. For sure. Obviously, it is a lounge jazz type of performance number a la Jessica Rabbit, and honestly, because of the way it feels, stripped down from the anguished pop star persona in Poison, we get to see a more confident and I would say a freer version of Angel. Speaking of a freed Angel, the hotel better save him, especially with Husk at the front. But I also would like to see Angel actually actively making that choice for himself as well. Because by the end of season 2, we do see him losing his will to fight, and it's unfortunate. I wish he would somehow in the story he would come to realize that he does have that choice, and he deserves to have that choice to be himself and to have ownership of himself. I really loved Angel Dust. Husk is my comfort character. He is my favorite after ALASTOR for sure. He is grounded, awkwardly soft, grumpy, and so emotionally repressed that it kind of hurts. Husk is one of the grounding forces of the show, the baseline to everyone else's chaotic melodies, leveling out the high energy plot, the high-pitched musical numbers. There's so many tenors and sopranos in the show. And he also brings a chill, almost comforting vibe. He is tired, sad, a drunk, but oddly perceptive. He genuinely feels like the hotel's unofficial counselor. The scene before Loser Baby showed that he can be emotionally intelligent, even if he is a person who is struggling with alcohol addiction, who probably shouldn't be anyone's therapist. His magic trick powers are so fun, so creative. His fight scenes are always a treat, and I hope they use his powers more. I am deeply curious about his contract with ALASTOR. How will that resolve? Will he trade his powers to save Angel? Trick Val using illusions? I like the idea of Husk helping save Angel, but at the end of the day, again, it has to be Angel choosing freedom for it to mean anything. That emotional payoff only works if Angel actively breaks the chains himself with a little help from his friends. His scenes with Angel Dust are some of my favorites. Gentle, soft, heartbreaking, and that moment when he quietly asked Angel not to go, the fist tremble when they see Angel intoxicated at Val's. His voice cracked when he said, "Don't go or come back." Angel turned around crying. I shed an actual tear in the whole scene, everything about it. It was so emotional. I'm excited to see how Husk navigates the weight of Angel's trauma. Their situations are similar, but both bound by contracts. It's something that they share, but Angel's is heavier, deeper, more psychologically damaging. Husk will need to learn how to help, and honestly, the whole hotel might need to be involved. His songs Loser Baby and Love in a Bottle have the same big band jazzy sounds we love. The latter brings a whole other side to him. Without the hotel or Angel, he's just more miserable. I love Keith David's velvet, buttery voice in this. The thing is, Husk has found love and home within the hotel, but he doesn't really fully admit it because of the safety he feels from the drinks. It's also interesting to note that his songs, also Angel Dust songs, Poison and Losing Streak, we see the unfortunate side of Angel Dust and Poison, and then the other is like an answer to Husk's Love in a Bottle. And then Loser Baby from Husk is like, it's just the complete opposite of what Poison is trying to say. And then here in Love in a Bottle and Losing Streak is like they're answering each other. Like Losing Streak is an answer to Love in a Bottle. So I really like the way it's positioned to be in that way in both seasons. So it's really nice. And also Loser Baby instrumental, yeah, and like in the background. Oh my gosh, that was so great. That's a really beautiful, nice touch. Nice touch to the emotional, I don't know, would I say emotional? Like sentimental background to some of their scenes. It's really nice. Another person who loves Angel Dust is Cherry Bomb. You know, Cherry Bomb, I love her. She is a babe. She's a real friend. She deserved every single punch she landed on Val. She's so fun, so spontaneous, and her loyalty to Angel is beautiful. But the main thing about her in season 2 is her grasping what she actually feels for Pentious. And it really is not, it's not conclusive by the end of season 2. And I kind of get it. Pretty much what the song Piss, a Love Song, talked about, which is an amazing song, by the way. I loved everything about it. Their chemistry is adorable. It is adorable. I didn't really get it until by the end. I was like, wait, their chemistry can actually kind of work here. But what I would want to finally see next season is where she finally admits to herself or becomes honest about what she feels for Pentious. You know, it's kind of like the same with Husk, you know, admitting to themselves, becoming honest about what they actually feel. And they're currently, with Cherry Bomb and Sir Pentious, they're currently at a talking stage and long distance. Also, she's probably next in line to be redeemed, just to end her long distance thing with Pentious to get to that point of their relationship. But that's just a theory. Speaking of that snake, he is a side character who accidentally became one of the main characters for me. Season 2 made him the emotional core. Without him, the story would fall apart as well. Like, he's so great. His backstory was short and to the point. It was needed to serve the story and understand why he was redeemed. He did not have friends and was guilty of inaction when he could have acted and prevented the lady's unfortunate fate. His voice actor is phenomenal, sincere, expressive, earnest, awkward. Like everything that he brought to life with Sir Pentious is so like that. It's very endearing. And then his scenes with Cherry is adorable. His parallels with SERA is perfect. And the callback to It Starts With Sorry, I teared up. It was so good. I hope we see him again in season 3, even though season 2 kind of wrapped his arc nicely. You know, there's not much to go with his arc in season 3, if I'm being honest. So I hope they can cut back so they can focus on other characters who need the spotlight more. Maybe he will help Heaven redeem souls or invent something. So maybe he'll build Heaven a new barrier. You know, he kind of deserves a hobby. One of the show's biggest surprises for me, for sure, he went from a goofy background character to one of the emotional cores. You know, and of course, his egg boys, the little companions, the little eggs, they're adorable. Another character related to Sir Pentious is Baxter. I wanted more from him, but it was clear that he wasn't really going to have a lot of screen time and just a plot device. You know, he is clearly meant to be a red herring as Vox's spy, but the show never really fully commits for that role to hit. But that was also a red herring because the story meant for him to be part of the hotel instead of that, so I was okay with that. Once he revealed that he works for Vox, he kind of just exists for the show in the background. So that was kind of okay. You know, and then he revealed what he actually worked on. And here we have an absolute madman who exists in service to the story to help the hotel out, you know. It's cute. I also love the fact that he muted Vox and foiled his attempts at stopping him. But his last scenes with NIFTY, they suddenly made him 10 times more interesting. I don't know what it is about suddenly seeing two people have the potential to grow into something more. It is beautiful to watch. You know, I feel like the Cherry Bomb and Pentious storyline was supposed to feel this natural, but didn't really land quite well with me. Both are nice additions to Hazbin though. Another thing is that I love that he wasn't put off by NIFTY's eccentricity. That one detail opened up his entire character for me. Other than that, I am theorizing this mad scientist might work with ALASTOR in season 3 for some reason. I'm spitballing here for that theory. I don't have any kind of working theory, just that. It's a statement. I feel like he might serve a huge role in the redemption thing in the future, considering he only went to the hotel to study it. He is a very unexpected addition to the cast for me. Nifty, the cutest gremlin ever. Her solo song, Clean It Up. I love it. I love it so much. I love that they made it such an anime song. So it was really nice. Especially with the speed it was at. It definitely felt like an anime song. So I really love that. I want more of her. I want backstory, powers, all of it. Her being an overlord, excuse me? That reveal was something, you know, alright? If she is an overlord, would it mean that she is getting the souls from the pests? Or she turned sinners into bugs, then turned into her own souls? I don't know. I need an entire Nifty episode immediately. You know, does she have a contract with ALASTOR like Husk? How did she get those powers? Tell me more, you know, in season 3. And now we finally go to the other Vs. Valentino and Velvette. Okay, things I have to say about Val. I hate him. Charming, but I hate him. The next big villain, or at least one of the villains for season 3 for sure. Angel needs to be freed from that man. His powers are interesting, guns plus red toxic smoke. His sin seems to be lust for control and greed. He and Box were giving toxic situationship, and we see a little POV from him in Hazbin Guarantee where his part almost sounds like Solas's part in When I See Him. With Vox though, he wasn't even interested in taking over heaven, but they went along with the plan. Also, I actually love the music playing in the background during his fight scenes with Husk and Cherry Bomb, and the music during the hotel's espionage spy mission scenes. By the end of season 2, he feels more like a mascot of VoxTech than the head. In season 3, I think the real head of VoxTech is Velvette. She has to be, I know it. You know, she's a smart, magical, strategic stylist, influencer, and a fashion designer. She is vain and superficial. You know, the show doesn't really give her enough storyline, enough of a personal storyline to latch onto. You know, her powers being tied to social media metrics, her fight with Husk and Nifty, magic tricks versus witch powers. I love it. And not also that, but she also has short range combat. I forgot what the term is for that, but I loved it. You know, the fight with Nifty. I want her backstory so bad because I think it's very interesting. You know, she's the one that's holding down the Vs, to be honest. She is the one that grounds the group. She is a behind-the-scenes mastermind with no dedicated episode yet. Which brings me to 2 other characters that also don't have a dedicated episode yet, which are Carmilla and ZESTIAL. Carmilla is a mother, literally, musically, emotionally. I want to know more about her daughters, her losses, her past, because I can't really, I don't know, I can't latch onto her story for some reason. Like even like in season 1, even though she had 2 solo songs, yeah, she had 2 songs in season 1. Her songs are stunning, don't get me wrong. That's Broadway legend energy right there. She is guarded, protective, strategic, and maternal in a terrifying and loving way, and I love her. And that's all I know about her. You know, she's smart. You know, obviously she serves as a plot device. But then I have gotten this interest with her and ZESTIAL. ZESTIAL is so mysterious, and he's so attached to Carmilla that I swear there's more going on. Their bond is deeper than friends. You know, maybe soulmates. He's always there to support her, and I want to know why. You know, and like considering like there are a lot of overlords there, Carmilla is the one that he sticks to. What does he see in her, and what does he know? Okay, and despite everything that I've said, am I still watching this show? Absolutely. I might actually go for a rewatch. You know, it's absolutely fun. Maybe there are some things that I have missed. Hazbin is chaotic, fun, emotional, stylish, and openly queer in a way that is rare in animated shows. My criticisms don't cancel out my enjoyment. They highlight how much potential the show actually has. Because let's be honest, the biggest issue isn't the ideas, it's the 8-episode limit. You can feel the writers sprinting through arcs that deserve room to breathe. You can feel the story trying to stretch into something bigger but hitting the ceiling of its own runtime, which honestly explains why season 3 and 4 are already in production. Seasons 1 and 2 function like a single contained season, and I wouldn't be surprised if season 3 and 4 are structured the same way, finally giving the series some cohesion and the breathing room it's been begging for from day 1. Now I want to talk about, can we talk about the Live on Broadway show? that's amazing. I didn't know it because I was late to Hazbin Hotel. I didn't know this. Also didn't know Hell of a Boss. So I'm so pleased that there's a live version of the songs because, hello, the voice actors are from Broadway. They have theater backgrounds. Why not? I want another one. I want another one with more characters, more songs, more of the cast showing off vocals. They absolutely should be showing off, you know? Give me the season 2 songs live. Give me SERA songs live. Give me ensemble numbers, villain numbers, character solos. I want all of it. Hazbin songs are bills for live performances, and after that Broadway show, I'm convinced that they know it too. So just for a recap, what Hazbin actually is. Hazbin Hotel is a wildly entertaining but structurally flawed show carried by its characters, its music, its themes, its ridiculously strong emotional core. Its biggest strength and biggest problem is its ambitions to explore redemption, trauma, generational pain, and found family, all inside a runtime too short to fully breathe and live. Yet despite the pacing issues, uneven focus, and the lore that keeps getting dangled and yanked away, moments like It Starts With Sorry, Live to Live, and even Loser Baby remind you exactly why the show resonates. You know, characters like Fox, SERA, ALASTOR, Angel Dust, HUSK, Serpentious, and even some of the antagonists elevate the narrative beyond its structural flaws. Charlie remains a sweet, well-meaning protagonist with a massive potential. She just hasn't been given the same narrative depth just yet. Season 3 could change that completely. Now, speaking of Season 3, my main theory for it is that its main theme will be about trust and forgiveness, alongside love and sacrifice. You know, since there's no exterminations or imminent high-stakes danger, everything will be about all types of relationships, undergoing real change that will transform each character. No external big forces, just internal emotional stuff. It's more of like, can I trust you? Can I trust myself? Can I forgive myself? Can I forgive you? Can I forgive others? Those type of things. And I'm thinking of Angel Dust, Charlie, Lilith, Lucifer, and of course ALASTOR. And surprisingly the V's, because they have the power of friendship and the hotel family, to be honest with you. Like, what's going on with the found family vibes that's supposed to be prominent within the hotel main cast? So we'll definitely see a change of character dynamics in their evolution, as it should, right? Because Hazbin's real theme isn't really hell but make it sparkly. It's not even just redemption. It's everyone in this story is trying to break free from invisible or visible shackles, you know, trauma, reputation, shame, old deals, old wounds, the past, even from themselves. And that's where the magic is. At the end of the day, that's enough to keep me watching. Because when Hazbin hits, it hits hard. And I genuinely want to see where these characters go next. Hopefully something better and happier. That's the end of what I think about this show. I'm actually surprised that this is probably getting a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I just had to get these thoughts out of my head. I wanted an outlet and this is it. So thank you for listening. If you have reached this point, I hope you like and subscribe. The next one will probably be about Vox Machina or the Mighty Nine, depending on when I finish them. But yes, I really love doing this. I hope you enjoyed it too. Let me know what are your thoughts on the show as well. What did you think I missed out on saying or talking about or discussing? Let's try and have a healthy conversation in the comment section below. So yes, I will see you next time, and thank you.